Hey everyone, Raelan here. So some people have been asking me for some shorter videos, some bite-sized tidbits of information with strategies that you can consider using for your chronic fatigue syndrome or ME or long COVID or whatever it might be that you are currently facing. So in response to that, I've started a series called Quick Tips and Topics to address just that. And today's topic is how to keep things organized in your home. I'm starting to appreciate that when you're really unwell, having a home that feels chaotic and messy that you can't keep up with can just add to that stress and that feeling of being out of control in your life. So I'm going to share 3 ways that have worked for me to keep my home organized and under control most of the time, whether I am healthy or unwell. So the first strategy is around clutter. I have a strategy for reducing clutter in my home that I stick to religiously, because in terms of organization and keeping things around you sort of neat and orderly, clutter is the enemy. If you have stuff piled up on counters and in drawers and in closet corners and all over the place, stuff that you don't use, you don't even know it's there, it's really, really challenging to keep things orderly and clean. So how I stay on top of this is not to attack it all at once, because even a healthy person would find that to be an incredibly big challenge to take on, is I have a reminder on my digital calendar once a month. So the first of every month, a reminder pops up and it just says declutter. And I put it on my schedule for the day because I make a schedule every single day. And I make sure at some point in that day, I spend at least a few minutes and devote it to decluttering. Now, what this looks like can vary. Typically, what I do is I take a bag. In my closet, I keep a stack of extra shopping bags and whatnot in case I need them. And I'll grab a big one and I'll just walk around my apartment and I'll start grabbing things. Now, if you're new to this and you haven't done any decluttering in a while, you might just want to pick a room or even just a drawer and just start there. But since I do this regularly, the amount of clutter that I have is pretty minimal. So I can do a sweep of the whole place. And then I just walk through. I'll look in the pantry. What's piled up in there? Do I have a bunch of expired food that I'm never going to use? Let's throw it in the bag. I look in my closet. I'll grab a couple shirts, things that I haven't worn in years that I think I'm going to wear, but I'm just never going to wear. In they go. I'll go in my makeup drawer and get rid of 2 of my lipsticks that I bought that are the wrong color for me. I don't know why I'm keeping them. I'm never going to wear them. And so forth. So you can just go through your home, either targeting one specific place or just doing a sweep and grabbing a bunch of stuff. And then you get rid of it. And you can either donate it, you can give it away, even if you throw it away. I know it feels wasteful and we don't like this, but who is it helping to keep this stuff stored in your cupboards and corners and closets, cluttering up your life, making things more difficult? And your life will be easier. This is an energy saver. When you open the pantry and only food that you're actually going to eat is in there, it's so much easier to find what you're looking for. Same thing goes for your kitchen cupboards and your pots and pans and your makeup drawer and your closet with your clothes. When all you have are the things you actually use, it's so much simpler to make your way through the day. Now, the second strategy that I use is something that I read about ages ago, and it's called reset the room. And I cannot remember where I read it, so I cannot give this person credit. If you know, please let me know in the comments. So resetting the room means that every time you're done with a room, you reset it back to its original state. I think when things get overwhelming, when it gets to a point where we feel like we can't get on top of things, it's because we let things go for quite a long time, which is understandable if you're currently facing health challenges. But then it's just too big of a project to take on to get things back in order. So if you make something in the kitchen, when you're done, you reset the kitchen to its original state. Now, it doesn't have to be immediately. It might be in an hour or 2 hours after you've rested, whatever works for you. But at some point in that day, for sure, before the day is done, you reset it back to its original orderly state. Same thing with your bathroom or your bedroom. If you're getting ready before you go to bed, that space is reset back to its original state. I love waking up every morning to a home where I'm not dealing with yesterday's crap. It stresses me out and exhausts me before my day has even started to get up and see a mess. I didn't clean the bathroom up from yesterday. Oh, I hadn't wiped down the kitchen counters. There's stuff thrown around the living room. I find so much peace and happiness comes from my life, whether I'm healthy or sick, to wake up in the morning to a place that doesn't have yesterday's baggage to deal with. And I know this can be challenging when you are unwell, and I struggled with this, and it wasn't 100% of the time that I was able to reset the room. But I surprised myself. I would say, even on those days, I would have some days at the end of the day where I was just feeling horrible. I'd been laid out on the couch for hours, unable to move, and as I'm thinking about pulling myself off the couch to go to bed, which is the only movement I feel like I can manage, I'm looking at the kitchen and I see that my dishes are still strewn about and it's still a bit messy. And I think today is one of those days where I don't reset the room. There is no way I can do it. I can barely sit up. This is not happening today. And it's amazing. But even on those worst of the worst days, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, I was able to pull myself up and get myself to just spend 1 minute before I went to bed to put things away. Because I knew if I had a rough day, I was probably going to wake up feeling pretty rough the next morning. And waking up the next morning with yesterday's baggage was going to add on even more stress. So I'm certainly not advocating pushing past your limits. You do you. You do what's safe and healthy and works for you. But I just found that most of the time, I could muster up what I needed to stay on top of these tasks in my home. Now, in terms of cleaning, I have been fortunate that most of my life, I have been paying people to clean my home. Even when I couldn't afford it, I was going into debt paying people to clean my home. I have not always been the best with money. But there were times when I did have to do my own cleaning, and the way I tackled it was to assign a task to each day and to have a schedule and a plan. So let's say Tuesdays are bathroom days. Wednesdays is dusting. Thursdays is sweep the floors. And you can have flexibility with that plan. If you don't feel up to it on that day, then you can skip it. But I find by targeting one room or one task at a time and scheduling it to specific days really helps to make it more manageable and help me be able to stay on top of it. Maybe you only need to clean once a month, which is another way to make this all very manageable. I find I can lower my standards on cleaning more than I can lower my standards on organization. As long as I'm not looking around at chaos and things thrown about, I can kind of handle the dust building up on the furniture. And bonus tip, just before I wrap this up, is that if you live with a messy person, have a conversation with them and talk to them about designating some messy spaces for them. So maybe there's a spare room or a section of the office, or maybe you have 2 bathrooms and they can have one of them and you just never go in there. So if you can contain the mess, I find, because the mess really bothers me, it's really hard for me to live with the mess. But not everyone that I live with has always been the same as me. So if we have some spaces that we both have agreed upon, okay, that can be your chaos zone, then I'm okay with everything else. So that's it. So I'd love to hear your tips. What works for you? How do you stay on top of your stuff? What tidiness or cleanliness tips do you have that help keep things moving? And if you enjoyed this, much more like this coming. So consider hitting that like button and subscribing. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.